Hi, everybody. It's Matt from Discover College Soccer. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, whether that's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I also wanted to let you know about the Discover College Soccer Study Table. This is our brand new online portal that is complete with a 14-part online course giving you all of the ins and outs of the college soccer recruiting process. There's also a wealth of resources such as checklists, templates. There's the spreadsheets that have every soccer program in the country, along with their coaches, their contact information, their social media information, some basic stats about the school, and more. Plus, there's an online community where you can ask your questions, share your wins, your losses, any questions that you may have around the college soccer recruiting process. It's all there at the Discover College Soccer study table that you can find at discovercollegesoccer.com/study table, and hopefully we will see you there. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Chris from Johnson and Wales up in Rhode Island. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm getting ready to go up to Greensboro for the ECNLR regionals, and I was like, I wonder if it's the Johnson and Wales in Charlotte, but no, you are up in Rhode Island. I think we won't tell the Charlotte guys. You're probably the bigger, better program, right? But
Well, it's
but
funny because we had four campuses
oh wow.
pre-COVID, Denver and North Miami, and they were closed coming out of COVID. But quite often I get emails confirming games, and I'm like, I'm in Rhode Island, I'm not Charlotte. I get invited to go to clinics in North Carolina all the time, and I'm like, I'm in Rhode Island. I'd love to come down to North Carolina, but I'm not in Charlotte, so it's all good.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about Rhode Island. But right now we are you and I are talking here. It's June 14th. I mean, for a lot of Division One and Two folks, they're probably getting ready to dial up their fingers starting tomorrow for their other class. But you guys have the fortunate spot to be able to talk to folks whenever. So, in terms of your recruiting calendar, I'm assuming your 23s are done and dusted, and you're working hard on 24s. But about how far out are you looking? What does your normal recruiting calendar look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit different for us at the Division 3 level, and I have coached at Division 1, Division 2, and remember the days I used to tell people that kids would know where they're going to school before they get their driver's license, and for us it's a little bit more delayed, but at the same time, we've certainly completed our 23s. 24 already have a commit. Typically, our incoming, our recruits want to know where they're going before the fall of their senior year. Most of the kids we recruit are in a 7 to 10 hour radius, and a lot of them have a fall high school soccer season, and it just be crazy to try to continue to do visits and things like that in the fall. So so our timetable is really a lot of visits in spring, junior year, and even continuing into this month. We've had a lot after the Memorial Day tournaments that we went to, and so but yeah, by September things are usually starting to take shape, and every once in a while you get a straggler or someone who's changed their mind or was holding out hopes thinking that they truly were a Division 1 or a Division 2 player, and then as those schools ultimately let them know that they weren't going to be in the mix anymore, then they might circle back and reach out. So every year we probably get a kid in February, March, April of their senior year saying, oh, I wanted to go south. Like we have a kid this year, she wanted to go south, Florida, looking at schools, talking to schools, and then hey, I'm not going south anymore. I've decided it's too far away. So that's kind of our process.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Well, you mentioned Memorial Day tournaments. Just overall throughout the year, kind of what events are on your hit list? Where do you like to go to watch players?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly changing. I mean, there's just so many opportunities these days. It's like you got to pick and choose. But just for an example of the past 6 months, was at the Florida DPL event, the Florida ECNL regional event, the Florida ECNL event, Arizona Del Sol in February, Jefferson Cup in March, some of the local tournaments, NEFC and that Scorpions run up here in Massachusetts area. And then Memorial Day weekend was at PDA for a day, and then FC Delco in Pennsylvania for a day. Some of these tournaments have become such a sprawl that it's no longer efficient to go to some of these events because of just how much time you spend in your car, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's a little bit frustrating. It used to be nice. There were some events where one-stop shopping, park the car, get out, have 10 to 15 fields and spend the day. And now I feel like it's just a rat race because these tournaments are enormous.
Well, although you mentioned a couple near me that are pretty good locations there, Tampa and Bradenton here. So, but
Yeah, it's beautiful, and we had the best weather ever. I think it's the first time I've ever never even gone to the jacket for like 6 days. Like I've been in Florida in my winter coat, and you know, when a northern school is wearing a winter coat, it's not ideal.
well, I always tell people 50 down here feels different than 50 up north. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
what so when you're going to these events, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, oh, I want to be seen, you know, this, that, and the other. But uh, in reality, though, what's the mix, would you say, of players that you're going to see in an event because you've had contact with them or their coaches or you know that player versus you know a happy coincidence that you're going to get seen watching a game?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, for me, it's like you evaluate the emails and the correspondence that you did get, and then see if it makes sense in comparison to the games that you think are going to be more beneficial. So, you know, honestly, it's probably like 60-40, 60 being games that I'm just going to go to because I know that that's a past, we have a past history with kids from that club or coaches in that club. And then it's a matter of, you know, like I said, evaluating of those 40%, the emails that came in, does it make sense to go watch? And you know, and then also, like, what is the grad year for us? You know, I've gotten to the point where if I like a kid who's a grad year ahead of the cycle, more often than not, they're probably going D2 or D1. And so we definitely kind of weigh that as well, because, you know, sometimes we'll get 20% of our emails will be for a whole grad year out in advance of what we're really looking at.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, what about camps? Do you guys do your own ID camps? Do your staff work other camps? Is that a part of your recruiting mix at all?
Yeah, we certainly, so we try to hold an ID clinic, a 1 day event, like every 3 months. We didn't this year in May just because of the timing of some of the other events that were being held. But we had an indoor event in February where we had about 40 kids. We're not looking to blow it out and have 100. You know, we really like to try to keep it a good controlled environment where there's a good ratio of my staff to the players. And then I certainly work multiple events in the summer. I co-host an event with with a couple other colleges in Connecticut. It's a good 2 day event, and there's like 5 or 6 Division III schools involved, and then we invite other coaches in to come and observe and things like that. So it's kind of a variety. You know, some is a lot of 1 day events nowadays. You know what I mean? And then it's a matter of, you know, once again, it comes back to what's the quality like, and then, you know, which events are typically good because everybody's doing ID clinics now, you know what I mean? And there's so many companies that are running ID clinics that, you know, and you don't even know sometimes who's attending until a day or two before. So then you're making a last minute decision because all of a sudden you found out there's actually 10 to 15 kids at this one versus that one that are worth going to see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, whether it's at a camp, clinic, tournament, wherever you're watching games and evaluating players, what's your hierarchy of things that you're looking for in a player, whether that's on the field stuff or off the field stuff?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think just a good solid base technically. Speed of play is critical. We have a number of players in our program that, you know, due to their club situation was one thing, their high school situation was another, and I love that when they're playing center mid. Like I have a great defender who was center mid for her high school team, but a center back for her club team, and now she plays outside back for us. So I really always say that it's just a matter of the soccer player first. Like what's their versatility like? What's their first touch? How's their technical ability, speed of play, um, athleticism, and then obviously that's just kind of like what piques your interest. And then you got to start to dig deeper in terms of the academic profile, character and background and things like that. And so it's kind of the initial is, do they have the ability to play the game, in my opinion, at the level that we're looking to try to play, and then go from there.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. As you mentioned, it used to be 4 campuses. Now it's 2. I think there's some people who maybe heard the name Johnson and Wales, but you know, you've been there a few years, so you get some good perspective for us. So, what do you like most about the school? What are some great things about it that maybe we wouldn't learn just by going through the website?
And I think the biggest misconception is that it's a culinary school, and I think obviously that's you know the history of it and the notoriety of it is that, but we actually are down to a situation where I think it's like roughly 25% of the students are culinary. We have a variety of majors, which is great because we have kids who come in thinking they want something and then they can bounce to something else or add a minor. So we just have, everyone always asks, what's your popular majors? And we really have probably across a roster of roughly 30, we probably have 10 different majors across the roster, which is nice. And health science is a big one for us. And then we do have a lot that are involved with culinary, but culinary is such a diverse academic area that I think people don't realize. That I had someone who just graduated in December, was nutrition based, and so she works for the Boston Celtics in their kitchen. And I have a former grad who works for the New York Giants football team in their kitchen doing meal prep and helping the athletes stay on track. And then I have culinary that's running restaurant and culinary that's running a bakery. You know what I mean? And so, but we have a lot of different majors. The athletic facilities are really nice. We have a split campus so that some of the academics are right in the city of Providence, which has got tons of things to do. Just you can go to the theater, you can go to a concert. There's 5 other colleges in the immediate area, so it's a very young and kind of thriving city that's manageable. And then our athletic facilities are on Narragansett Bay, so we're literally 100 yards away from the ocean. And so, during preseason, we're on the field and there's sailboats out and a lot of activity out on the water. So it's just it's kind of a neat dynamic to have both of those settings for the students. And you can live down city, we call it, or you can live on the Harborside campus as well. So you have a variety of dorming situations as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's Rhode Island's one of the few states I haven't visited yet. I got to get up
Oh,
there
okay.
and check it out.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the academics and obviously Johnson Wales so well known for its culinary programs, but just overall in terms of academics, a lot of times that's a big transition trying to balance your studies with playing a college sport. So specifically, how do your students really balance the pull between the two, and what kind of support systems does the school offer to help students be successful in both?
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, one of the things that we do focus on is trying to recruit the best academic students that we can. It's kind of twofold. One is that, in my experience through the years, those who thrive in the classroom typically have a little more sense of responsibility and want to continue that academic quality. And it also translates out onto the field. So it also helps with financial aid. As a Division III school, we give really strong academic merit scholarships. So that's a big part to help keep things somewhat affordable in the high cost of college education. But academically, the interesting thing for us, and it continues to hold true even this year, we had a 3.84 GPA in season and a 3.56 in the spring. And I think that the structure that's provided by being a fall student athlete when you come in is fantastic for our new students, and they just kind of fall in line with the upperclassmen. And you don't obviously get a 3.84 if the team as a whole isn't dialed in academically as well. So, if we target a class or two or something that might not be where the student wants, then we have tutoring and other academic support areas. So, it's really, I mean, that's the goal. That's the the reason they're there is to get a good education and stay on track so that they can ultimately have whatever they, want to do in the future as an option. And so, this spring I wrote graduate, recommendations for like 6 of my seniors, and 3 of them are going to graduate school right away. A couple of them are taking a year off and then gonna get some more experience and then go to graduate school in 2024. So I think that's common. Roughly 30 to 40% of our graduates are, going into a graduate study pretty quickly. So.
Oh, okay. Well, let's either rewind or fast forward, whichever you prefer, but go into a fall season. Can you walk me through what a typical schedule would look like in an average week in terms of, when are classes, the games, practice, meals, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. So most of our students are in class, depending on if, they're early risers, they could be in class as early as 8. Some of our culinary labs are actually start at 7 a.m. and go till 1 p.m. But the normal academic for us is like in the 8 to 2:30, 3 o'clock range, roughly. We actually have a 4-day academic week, so it's great. No classes on Friday. So Monday, in class, maybe 8 to 2, let's say, get out of class. We usually lift on Monday and Thursday at roughly 3:30. We have a varsity weight room that's 100 yards away from the soccer field. So we'll lift pre-practice and then go over to the field. And our training sessions are usually in the 4 to 6:30 range. And then depending on what we're trying to accomplish, we'll dictate the length of that session. So then post-practice, it's a matter of, are you going to the training room or are you just going to the dining hall? And then, and then where do you do your academics, whether it's in the library or in your room or, another place on campus. So that's a typical, Monday. Tuesday is usually a pregame practice, once again, roughly 4 to 6:30 in that range somewhere. And we typically play Wednesday, Saturday is our schedule. So Thursday, we do get back in the weight room kind of as a recovery lift after the game. And then on Friday, because we don't have academics, our practices will rotate, and sometimes we'll go at 9 in the morning or 11 in the morning or 1. So we're done at a nice time on Friday. It gives them a little bit more recovery time before Saturday's game. And then Sunday is typically our off day. We do have a couple weekends where we go either like Friday, Sunday or Saturday, Sunday, just trying to simulate. Our goal is to win the conference. And if you win the conference and you're in the NCAA tournament, the format of the first weekend is Friday, Saturday or Saturday, Sunday. So we do try to simulate that just so that they have an understanding of what that might look like in terms of physically the demands on them. So to play back to back is a lot. And so we don't do it every weekend, but we definitely sprinkle a few in just to kind of give them a, hey, this is what it could look like in November.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team. Let's talk about roster size. Is there a roster size you feel is ideal that you try to hit each year?
Yeah, that's another popular question now, certainly coming out of COVID. I think that our roster has swollen a little bit higher than what I would typically have, but we're still in a situation through the 24 year of having kids. Are they coming back? Are you going to use your year? And then graduate transfers, reaching out, stuff like that. So we had 33 on the roster for the 2022 season. We have 31 projected for the fall of 23. And pre-COVID, I think the roster size on average was 26 to 28, 29 maybe. We like to try to have 3 to 4 GKs, and that, even with that, sometimes you get an injury of a GK and now you got a field player as your backup to the backup, which is never a good situation. So, but that's kind of how we shape the roster. And, you just never know. Like last year, we thought we were going to have 8 kids graduating, and then 3 kids had taken extra classes during COVID and decided that they were ready for the real world. So we had 11 graduate. So the roster issue is just such a challenge as well, because you never know. The kids coming back from surgery. We had 3 kids have surgery this past off season. How are they going to be? Are they going to fully recover from that surgery? And then how to, so the number on the roster doesn't always indicate who actually can participate. So it is a little bit tricky. I know I have some peers that have 35 plus on their rosters, and it's just some of that is driven by admissions or a college philosophy, but I think there's a certain point at which it becomes hard to run an effective training session.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what about your staff? How big is it? Who do you have? What roles do they play? Is there other athletic department support staff that help with the team? What's that look like?
Yeah, so for the past couple of years, I've always had at least one assistant. There was a time where I had 2. The second assistant sometimes was a volunteer. That's what I've had most recently. That juggling act of assistant coaches that are part-time. We don't have the good fortune of having a full-time assistant coach. So, it's really a matter of when can they be there, trying to coordinate when they're both there versus just one, and then what are we trying to accomplish on that given day. More often than not, my assistant coach Johan, he's been with me since I got the job in 2015. He's at 95% of everything, and he's in Florida recruiting and doing everything that you would want an assistant coach to do, and it's just a matter of his availability. So that's kind of how the staff works. I mean, I'm a big believer in give the assistant coach as much responsibility as they want, and see how they do, and then also it prepares them if in fact they wanted to go on to that next step, becoming a head coach. Some of my assistants don't want that, and they just like the role they're in and have a full-time job elsewhere. So that's kind of how I have it now. In the past, I've had assistant coaches go on to be head coaches elsewhere, stuff like that. So
Okay. Well, how would you describe your style of coaching and the team style of play?
yeah, so first and foremost, I think the style of play is definitely possession based. If we're doing well, the ball's on the ground, moving side to side. Obviously, here and there, balls are going to get flighted in for service or clearance, but we really like to attack. We have 80 schools in the region. Last year, we led the region in scoring with 85 goals. We've been in the top 3 in scoring in each of the last 3 years, and so we play a 4-3-3 for the most part, and just try to get everybody into the attack. And that's why, as we mentioned beforehand, with the versatility in recruiting, you just never know where you might end up, because a forward might struggle at the collegiate level, but she becomes a great outside back because she has that mentality to go forward, and just needs the field in front of her a little bit, whatever that might look like. But in terms of my coaching style, I mean, this fall will be my 28th year as a head coach. And certainly I've changed over the years, but I feel like my role is to help the players get better and accomplish things that they might not have thought that they could, by having a certain standard. Definitely intense, and I'm gonna ask you to do certain things and to do them well, and we're gonna rehearse them. We're gonna do the review on the film. We're gonna review things on the dry erase board, and then also do walkthrough type of stuff, so that you're prepared, you understand it, and then it's a matter of me creating the environment to get the repetitions so that you can get better at what we're asking you to do. We do a fair amount of position specific training, which a lot of our players really enjoy, because they have typically gone to club practice or high school practice, and it's been the whole unit doing the same thing over and over again. And my philosophy is, a defender might not be in the final third very often, so why are we going to give them 25 repetitions that the midfielders and the forwards could benefit more from? You know what I mean? And so we'll oftentimes split our groups up positionally, and do some 20 to 30 minutes of position specific training in the area that they're going to be. Whether it's GKs and defenders breaking it out, midfielder working on combos, forwards working on finishes or final service runs, stuff like that. So, but that's my belief. I've just gotten to the point where I think they have to get more repetitions because so many clubs today, like I haven't coached club in a while, but it's 2 to 3 teams on a field for practice, so they never get to do anything big field. You know what I mean? And it just like doesn't do anybody any good because now they have no idea how to how to deal with the space. They were really good at doing what they were trying to do in a third of the field, and then you get to the big picture and it's like, wow, there's just a lot more space. So we do a fair amount of 11v11 stuff as well, just because that's the game, and we also want our players to be going at each other in that full field environment. So last year we had the offensive player of the year and the defensive player in the year of the conference, and I'll oftentimes put them on opposite sides so they're both challenging each other to get better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know. I wish we had the wherewithal to train on a full field for our
Yeah.
club too.
Yeah.
Some get it, some don't. It can be challenging, that's for sure. But well, Coach, we've covered a lot of ground. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to ask you one last question, and that's if you had one piece of advice, one nugget to share with anybody, parents, players going through this college recruiting process, what would you want to let them know?
I just think you got to be an advocate for yourself, and you got to realize that this is a huge decision. I have 2 adult children who both went through the process, and I experienced everything that you can experience as a parent that we talk about as a coach, from the injured athlete to the head coach leaving the school that you committed to the decision to transfer. And so I just think that no matter what decision you make, you still might have second thoughts. So be as thorough as possible. Like I always encourage people to go to as many visits as possible and to ask the tough questions. Put the coach on the spot. Ask the questions that are relevant to you, and be prepared when you do meet with coaches so that you can ask those questions and find out like what your role might be, or how does that staff envision you helping the program, because 4 years is a long time, and it's a big decision. It's not something that should be taken lightly, and just I always tell recruits, you need to let us know everything you're doing in terms of, because you just never know. Like I've gone to visit family for something in New Jersey, and there's a kid playing an hour away, and I pop out and go watch that, or you know what I mean, and just every opportunity is an opportunity to continue to be seen. So continue to provide that information to the coaches that you're interested in, so that they know what's going on. And then lastly, the biggest thing, I say this as well, not everyone's coming to Johnson and Wales, and if you're not interested, let me know, and it's not the end of the world. We're going to move on, you're going to move on, and so be upfront and honest, because stringing a college coach along is not advantageous for anyone, and likewise ask the questions to find out if the college coach is stringing you along. You know what I mean? And so it's a two-way street, and oftentimes I know based on the recruit's answer about certain schools that they're looking at that they're not really being recruited, but they don't know it, but I'm not going to be the one to tell them that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
So
Awesome. Well, Coach, really appreciate it. Wish you the best of luck in the fall, and the next time you get down to any of the Bradenton area recruiting events, give me a shout and we'll get together. All right.
sounds great, Matt. I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you.